Hi,
Hi, welcome to Wednesday Wisdom. My name is Sera Doğramacı, and I'm Ice Hockey Australia's Goaltender Development Manager. And today with me, I have Dave Alexander, who is goalie coach for St. Louis Blues. Welcome, Dave.
hey, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited for this. Thank you for joining us.
No
Okay, I'm
problem.
going to take it all the way back. How did
Yep.
hockey come into your life?
Yep. Well, I mean, I'm from Eastern Canada, so I think it was kind of a natural thing in our household. My dad played hockey, and it's part of our culture, right? It's a culture thing for us. It becomes a little bit of a lifestyle. Your whole world kind of revolves around it. Our family would plan summer vacation around what goalie camp I wanted to head to. Everything kind of became it's your life. It's
Yeah.
part of it's Canadian culture. So it's been in my life for forever. A long time.
How old were you when you started? Were you always a goalie or?
No, my dad wouldn't let me. And my dad was a goalie.
Okay.
But he wouldn't let me become a goalie until I could be a really good skater. He told me
excellent.
that the goalies had to be he said goalies had to be the best skater on the team, not the fastest. Those are two different things, but really knew how to use your edges and be agile and understand how to, skate forward and backwards, if you want to go that elementary. But, no, I was a player growing up for a long time. Say a long time. I mean, I started playing when you start like at 3 years old in Canada,
Yeah, right.
So you're young. But I remember even being as close to like the age of 10 where I was still kind of like playing goalie,
okay.
but instead of being on the bench as the backup, you would play defense. So basically what happened was the sixth defense position was the goalie as well. So you kind of just flip-flop game to game. And I think that was really important for me growing up. And so it started at a young age for me. Yeah.
When how old were you when you made the full transition?
I would have been probably first year Adam. So it would have been first year Adam. I guess I would have been like 10 or 12, 11, 12.
Yeah. Okay. So do you think that having had the player background as well, so doing both up until then, that helped with your game sense as a goalie?
Yeah, for sure. I think so. Because you kind of get to see things a little bit of a different perspective for sure. And I think, as a goalie, sometimes you kind of just you think that it's just the puck that you're really worried about. But, as a defender, you kind of start realizing that there's more to it than that. So definitely, I think what it really did, to be honest with you, was when you would go to the board to see a coach explaining a drill. When you were a defenseman that day, you had to know what was going on and you had to understand like the system and things like that. So, and then when you're actually in net, on those days, like you're still kind of really dialed in. And I always find now watching younger goalies, if I go to like a peewee, 13, 14-year-old practice, whenever the coach is at the board, the goalies are kind of just lost in the back, and so those are moments where you get to learn the game, right? Like those are the foundational things where, you're learning routes that players take, and it's a basic level, but the reality is the game is kind of the same the whole way through.
Yeah.
It's just there's some different stuff that kind of happens, but you have to have a foundational base. So I think that was important for sure.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, how did your goalie career look like? What did you do growing up? Any exciting things along the way?
Yeah, so I grew up in Moncton, New Brunswick, Canada, as I was saying, in the eastern coast of Canada, and I was fortunate to play AAA almost at every level. I grew up playing at the highest level, so I had a pretty good minor hockey run. My first year of midget, which is the highest level for us of minor hockey, I didn't make the team, and that was devastating for me. It was a really tough go. But it was a good lesson learned. I wasn't prepared enough for camp. And you know what? I didn't deserve to make the team. So that was tough, but I ended up finishing the following year playing midget AAA and then graduating high school. And then I went to Ontario to play junior hockey. The dream was to play NCAA. College hockey in the U.S. was a big deal. And so that was kind of the goal. but ended up finding myself at a really good Canadian school at the University of New Brunswick, and they, they every other year tend to win the national championship. They're kind of like a powerhouse in Canadian university hockey. And I got there and kind of realized the starting goalie was a lot better than I was. And I knew, hockey, I was just trying to extend it as far as I could. It wasn't like I was going to be an NHL goalie at 5'7". So it was a little bit tricky. So I decided to kind of shift and just, I was in my first year university. I was with the team for only a couple months, and then I decided to kind of get into coaching. So, so that's kind of where it ended for me. And I don't, the university team won the national championship that year. In hindsight, that would have been nice for sure. But I don't really have any regrets, especially with the way things have unfolded for me. It was the right decision for me to focus on school, and put that extra time into that. I knew I was a smart person, but I didn't apply myself in high school. And so I kind of had to prove to myself that I could do it in university. So I needed the extra time, and, it worked out. I was a dean listed student. So, it was a very good decision on my part. It was a mature decision.
That's nice. Okay. So what did you study?
Yep. So I majored, I was a history major, French minor, and then to eventually go on to get my education degree. So by trade, I have 2 degrees, and I guess by trade, I am a school teacher. So, and I did teach school for a number of years, actually. So.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So coaching somewhere along the way kind of took over. So obviously did teach as part of your career. And then, so how did coaching really evolve for you?
Yeah. So in university, coaching was just kind of a thing to kind of keep me out of trouble, I guess, and keep me busy, and I loved the game, and I'd always kind of been coaching, at hockey camps and so on and so forth. So, so I kept doing it, and I always tell this story. It's I was coaching a midget AAA hockey team, and I'd been there for a year, and there was a younger kid who was about 12 years old at the time that was supposed to be a really good goalie coming up, and I'd been working with him a little bit too, and he ended up trying out for the midget team, and I just kind of it was hard for me because I didn't want to take him really. I didn't think he was ready to make the jump. And the head coach was like, no, we're going to take him. Like usually we're on the same page. We're going to take him. So, so my vote got, shut down, and we ended up taking the kid. His name was Jake Allen. So the funny thing was, like going back. So I ended up working with Jake at a young age. And just pure luck that our paths ended up crossing, and so he really kind of took off a little bit at a younger age. He was good. Probably wasn't elite, but got fortunate with some good opportunities and played well during those moments, and ended up getting drafted. So that kind of put me on the map a little bit with regards to coaching, because Jake continued to come to see me in the summers.
Okay.
So that was kind of like the first, like something you always need something to hang your hat on as a coach to kind of get going, and so that was kind of it. That was kind of the start of things, was with Jake. And then I ended up going to the University of Maine, which is an NCAA Division I school, really well known for producing goalies. Jimmy Howard, Ben Bishop, and then you could go way back to like Mike Dunham, and like there's a long list of goalies. It's a goalie school, and so to get the job there was also really important for me. Have a program like that end up hiring me was big, because they don't just take anybody. So I was lucky to get in there, and I had a goalie there. I crossed paths with a guy named Scott Darling, who went on to win a cup with Chicago, and then. While I was there at Maine, some of the former goalies got wind of my coaching, and next thing you know, I was running camps with Ben Bishop and Jimmy Howard coming. So we kind of had we had a nice little thing going at the University of Maine where, I kind of have a small group of pro guys who, Jimmy was a little bit established at that point, but Ben was just breaking into the league. Okay. Jake was on the cusp of breaking into the league. So I kind of had a good group of guys, and that really, that was a big deal for me. So I guess when you ask what it was, those were meeting Jake at the same time in midget hockey and being able to go to the University of Maine, those two scenarios really kind of put me on the map and became known as a guy to develop goalies. So those are kind of the big moments for me in time.
That's so cool. Okay,
Yeah.
so then path to NHL, then you didn't go straight to the NHL.
No, I did
What
not.
was the pathway for you?
Yep. So then what happened was I ended up going to the American Hockey League, which is our feeder system for the NHL here in North America. And that was an interesting scenario because the Tampa Bay Lightning, the job for the Tampa Bay Lightning's farm club opened up. And that was of interest for me because I knew that would be a really hard challenge because they had a really good prospect coming.
Right.
And I thought if I could get in there in the American Hockey League with Tampa, that would be a really big moment for me if I could get in there. And I was fortunate enough to make it through the interview process there, and joined the team in Syracuse, New York.
Nice.
And one of the unique things about that was I was also the video coach. So I was the goalie coach and the video coach. That was a good experience for me. And I was able to there cross paths with a guy named Andrei Vasilevsky. So Andre came over from Russia and was to spend a year in Syracuse. And, you know, I never take credit for Vasi. I mean, he's a generational talent. I guess one of the things I will say about that time was, you know, I was told by management, like, don't mess it up, you know? So, that in itself can be tricky at times. There's a lot of first rounders that don't make it, you know, there's a lot, if you go look at those stats, there's a lot of guys that don't. But at the end of the day, Vasi was a well-oiled machine, and I just kind of helped keep it going a little bit. He found his way. He struggled a little bit, but he found his way and really became a pro. And ended up graduating onto Tampa. And Franz Jean, who's the goalie coach in Tampa, he's done a really good job with Vasi, continuing, you know, his development in the NHL. And so they've got a good thing going there for sure. And then so that was the step before I took going to the NHL. So for me, the thing that I really like is that in my career, I've kind of been coaching, you know, all the way through. I've kind of hit most levels. And that's important for me because I can draw on that experience. And I've never played in the NHL, but I always say my strength is that I've become the sum of all the goalies I've worked with. So, you know, I've been, you know, through a lot of different things over time, and I've tried really hard to have my eyes and ears open as much as possible along my journey, and feel like I've kind of become the sum of those parts. And then now, obviously, here in St. Louis in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, and I think so. At the last interview that I just had, we were talking about how important it is to have multiple coaches and take bits and pieces from each one. But I think what you're just saying is also like, well, the more goalies, well, different goalies you've had, you also take bits and pieces from them as well, which helps you with your future coaching as well. I think that's really cool. Okay, so with the Blues, now for us, it's all, you know, glitz and glamour, and it's just this beautiful thing that everyone wants to be a part of. What's the reality? Because it's not easy.
Yeah. It's you kind of nailed it there. The reality is this. It's the journey is not easy. And what I mean by the journey is the day-to-day, the moment-to-moment. It isn't easy. It's not for everybody. But for those of the athletes who are really at the top of their craft, that's really what matters. It's not, winning is it's a big deal, but they really embrace that journey. They really embrace, they embrace the grind. That's what draws elite athletes in, is like not wanting it to be easy. They don't want the glitz and glam. They want the hard stuff. They want the stuff that people don't see.
Yep.
And that's what allows people to stick in our level. Like a lot of people think of the household names, you know, like the Crosbys and those people. Like there's a lot of turnover in our business, and because it's not for everyone, the game just chews people up and spits them out if they can't handle it. And you know what? Sometimes there's unfortunate things where there are people that can handle it. They just end up with, you know, heart injuries, and it happens. But the reality is, if you can't handle the daily grind of this business, it chews you up and spits you out pretty quick.
But and I think something that people may, I guess, in a way forget, that it is a job, and if you don't do well at your job, then see you later.
Yeah, so that's 100% what it is. You know, it becomes this game we play growing up, but then it becomes a point where you are now. This is gonna make it sound awful, but you're a number now. You're an
You're an
asset
employee,
inside,
right? Yeah.
inside of an organization, and if you in your role that you have, if you're not performing, this is a global game. We're going to find somebody else because we don't have time. I mean, I'm talking to Australia right now, so it's a global game. You know, we had an Australian play a couple minutes for us last year, right? So Mr. Walker. So like it's a global game, and so, you know, there's very little margin for error. The stress is high. The microscope is huge. And it takes special people to handle that every single day. You know, it's not easy. You know, a lot of my teacher colleagues that I used to work with, you know, they say, well, it's just like teaching, and they're right. But here's the difference. Every day your lesson plan is on the front page of the newspaper, and if it doesn't go well, the whole city's talking about it, you know? And so like, that's and most people are like, whoa, well, I never thought of that. It's like, yeah. So imagine all the lesson plans that went wrong in the classroom, and those were made public, you know, on the front page of your home newspaper, on the front page of your newspaper. So that's the reality. You know, the neighborhood I live in, everybody knows my job. They know what I do, and they see my work every day. And, you know, it works. If it's a bad day, the neighbors are kind of like, hey, you know, but if it's a good one, like, you know, so everyone knows what's going on, so you can't hide.
Yeah.
And so that can take its toll on people.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask, like, what's been challenging about the role and what you do, but it sounds like you've kind of just answered it as well, that it isn't all just, you know, rainbows and unicorns, right?
No, it's definitely, I mean, I've 2 daughters. There's tons of unicorns in my house right now, but on the outside, it's not. You know, but in some ways it is, because you love it. So like, that's the unicorn. You know, it's like you have to have a passion for hard places. You have to have a passion for hard conversations. You have to have a passion for people hitting the wall. Like that's what it is, you know, and so that's what it takes to stick it out, you know. And it's there's moments where it's not easy because emotion gets involved, and that's hard, you know. But yeah, I love it. The people that are here and do it on a day-to-day basis, it might sound sick a little bit, but you just love the hard stuff. You love it.
Yeah. Okay. So talking about positive emotions, then let's talk about some of those. So Stanley Cup winner, no big deal. Talk us through that experience.
Yeah. That was really remarkable. You know, it was quite the season. You know, we felt around December that the team was really kind of changing, and things were kind of, you know, taking shape. Goal scoring was still an issue a little bit in the month of December. You know, lost to Dallas 3-1, lost to the Rangers 3-1 in the new year, but you know, you're looking at things and like, we're doing everything right, we just weren't scoring. And you know, I things kind of started turning the page a little bit in January. We started finding the back of the net. Goal scoring kind of picked up, and we got on a little bit of run, and then we got a little bit of confidence, and then both goalies played really well down the stretch. You know, Binner, obviously took the spotlight, which was good. Jake won some really important games that people don't really think about. But he provided a lot of points for us that we needed. He gave Binner some really good quality rest nights as well. And he did everything he was supposed to do. Jordan did everything he was supposed to do. And then we kind of made it to the playoffs. That's what you want in hockey, is just a chance to make it in. And then anything can happen. You can kind of get on a little bit of a roll. And, the Winnipeg series was outstanding. It was a really fun environment. I'm happy we started up there. That rink is one of the best ones in the National Hockey League. It's really like the pitch.
Oh no, we've lost you.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, we're back.
Technical difficulties. Winnipeg was a really good place to get things started. As I was saying, the rink there is electric. It's the seats are right on top of you. Like the pitch of the seats are a little bit different there, so it has a little bit of an old school feel to it. It was that was a really fun place to get things started, and we just kind of kept rolling. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, and then my memory is not so great with these things, but then the playoffs. The road to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did the rest of it play out?
Yeah. No, it was good. We had our moments. That's for sure. Dallas was not an easy opponent. Ben Bishop played remarkable. On the goalie side of things, he was really good. He gave us a scare. That's for sure. And that was a big. Winning that series at home was. Man, that was something you'll never forget. That feeling was really cool. That was that was awesome. And then we, San Jose, we kind of got to them, and they were like a little bit beat up at the time. And I thought we played really well against them. I thought Dallas gave us a little bit more of a scare, to be honest with you. But but nonetheless, San Jose was really star-studded too. Like they've got some really good decor. That I think Marty Jones is a good goalie. Like you never know with that guy. So like they were and they just came off a pretty big series win. So I was kind of nervous about them too, to be honest with you. It's never easy. And then off to Boston, which was really neat, because the storyline of the St. Louis Blues is that Boston robbed them of a cup way back, during the franchise's first few years. When St. Louis was in its first couple years as a team, the famous Bobby Orr goal was scored, where he's diving through the air. And so, here we are now, some years later, with a matchup again, Boston, St. Louis. So that storyline was kind of neat, and to be part of that. It was really interesting. I was fortunate because when I was with Tampa in 2015, I was with the Lightning during their cup run when they were going to the cup finals against Chicago. So Vasi had kind of made the transition to the NHL. We had a Black Ace squad that was with the team, and I was lucky enough that NHL management let me kind of hang out with the team during the playoffs to gain some experience. And I'm really grateful for that, because I remember walking into Chicago with the Tampa team, and I was just a fly on the wall. Like I was just kind of there, just kind of learning, and I just was overwhelmed with, could not believe the media presence is out. Like every single corner of the rink has a member of the media. Like I can't even explain it. You can't even walk to your coach's room. You're tripping over wires. There's camera trucks. There's cameras. And so going through that at a young age, I was able to kind of take it all in. And so going to the Cup Finals with St. Louis was different, because I'm really invested in this one. But I'd seen a lot of things years prior, following Tampa through that cup final run with them. So that was nice. Some experience was definitely at play there, which was nice. And it was all true again. Boston was nuts. Like the rink was packed. Security is out of control. Like it's just like the whole world's watching. So it's hockey on steroids. It was a lot of fun. We had a chance to win it at home in Game 6, and that was a disaster. We did not play well as a team, and goaltender right out. It could have been better. We had a chance to win it at home, but in retrospect, I'm kind of happy. It would have been unbelievable to win at home for the city for sure. Selfishly, winning on the road was nice. Just to be able to be with just the team on the plane.
Yeah.
Because that's really, when you win a cup, that's the end of that team. Like, everyone wants those players. Everyone wants more money. It's hard to keep a group like that together. So it was just an awesome experience to be able to just kind of be with the group, the coaches, management, the players, just for a couple hours on that flight before the chaos ensued when we landed. So, it was a remarkable run. It was something you never forget. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And that picture behind you kind of shows that too. Nice.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. So final question.
Okay.
Here, we don't have a huge depth pool. There's not a lot of goalies compared to, what you would have in North America. So if you ask a lot of the younger goalies here and you ask, what would you want to do? What do you want to do with your goalie life? And they'll say, I want to play NHL, which is like, that's fantastic. But in reality, because we don't have a whole lot of goalies, we don't maybe necessarily have, I guess, the optimal size. We range in everything with our ability. So should we take that into account? Should we be emulating what the NHL goalies do? So from a coaching standpoint, if we say, well, the NHL, we hold you guys up in this regard, but our players don't necessarily look like your typical NHL players, how should we be training then to reach our potential, whatever our potential happens to be?
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. That's a good question, because I think what you're saying is, do we teach our guys, like you watch Ben Bishop at 6'6"? Should we be watching Ben Bishop at 6'6"? Is kind of what you're
asking. Should we be trying to skate like him? Should we do our right?
Yep. No, for sure. There's definitely some there is some validity to your question. I think what you find is that in the world of goaltending, I call them non-negotiables. Like, there's things about goaltending that'll stay true no matter where you are, no matter what. As long as the game is played on ice, as long as the zone stays the size it is and the net the size it is, there's some things that are never going to change. I think Thomas Magnuson calls them constants. Thomas, a mentor of mine, director out of Sweden. And, there's things that just aren't going to change. The game, there's things that haven't changed forever, But I guess my advice would be, there are some guys in the NHL who are smaller in stature that play an unbelievable game. Like, and I'll just use one for an example. Like Antti Ranta is I think he's I don't know who this intended audience is for, but he's a goalie clip. He's a goalie clip machine. Like, if you watch his game, like, I don't care what size of goalie it is. Like, that should be your stance. That should be how you skate. That should be like your save selection, whatever you want to call it. Like, he has a very good game, and so there are guys at the level for sure that, you can definitely emulate and you might want to point to. But you know what? I look at it this way too. There are guys who are Jaro Halak. Yaroslav Halak, he's 5'11". People don't think of that one. Like, Yaro is not as big as people realize. He plays very big. He presents big. But so there's some things in his game that you might want to take a peek at. Why does he present so big? But look, there are guys and girls who play at 5'7" wherever they're playing, and I don't care if they're 5'7" or not. I wouldn't recommend anybody follow what they're doing. You know what I mean? So, like, I understand what you're saying. I understand, but I still think there's good, positive things that you can pull out of anyone's game. But what you got to start to understand is your assets and deficiencies, and make sure that the things that you're pulling out of games, or I like Vasilevsky's whatever. I like Carey Price's this. I like, just make sure it's gonna work for you. And some of the ways you find out if it's gonna work for you or not is by failing.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's like, yeah, that doesn't work. Okay, well then that's fine. So then you move on. The big thing about the size, obviously, for a lot of people is the depth. That would be a thing, I think, for sure with younger athletes. So that is something to consider. But overall, like I said, you know what? There's things that guys at 6'6" that I would say are great for anybody to follow, and there's things that aren't. And then there's people at the other end of the spectrum. Yaroslav Halak is 5'11". There's things that he does, but I don't know if I would follow everything either. So, it's about being educated in understanding your goaltender's assets and deficiencies, and making sure what you pull fit that mold. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is particularly one for goalie coaches as well, wherever in the world, that they might look, oh, hey, look, this goalie's doing this and it looks really cool and fancy. I'm going to teach that to my goalies, but it may not be the best thing to teach them. So, with anything, show them all the options, and then the goalie needs to develop their own individual style anyway that's going to optimize their own individual performance.
Yeah. And the other thing too, like I always tell coaches, I'm a little bit different this way, I guess, but like the other thing is you need to have the athlete's input, but the reality is you're the coach. So like you should know what's best for your athlete as well. So like, giving some really, conversation's good, but if you're good at what you do, your recommendations should be on point, so like as a coach, you have to have confidence that you know what you're talking about. And you can make the recommendation and you can put it into that game or take it out, what have you. So does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love it. And I hope the audience is paying attention to that. Awesome. I'm super grateful for having been able to talk to you today, and just the network that we're a part of. It has just been fantastic to be able to connect with you and just pick some ideas and all that kind of stuff. So thank you so much for the chat today, and I wish you all the best for the upcoming season. Thanks. However that happens to turn out.
No kidding. Stay safe, Australia.
Thanks, you too.